what is DITS? DITS is a way to analyze and interpret language. It stands for Diction, which means word choice, Imagery, which is any detail that evokes one of the five senses or more of the five senses, Tone, which is the speaker's, in this case, the narrator, Douglas, his attitude towards whatever it is he's writing about. And S is structure, which includes sentence structure, paragraph structure, chapter structure, all of that good stuff. All right, let's dig in a little bit deeper. These are textual features that are the building blocks of all literature. And so it's very important that any literary analysis you do in IB English gets back to one of these building blocks. All right? All analysis must start with one of these elements and can then be used to support an interpretation. So authorial choices, they start with DITS. DITS is, another way to think of DITS is this image that I have here. We start at the very bottom with textual features when we analyze literature. So we start with diction, imagery, tone, mood, structure, and then we move to what is the effect on thought and feeling. This is evaluation. And then we move to the meaning. That is the interpretation. And so IB wants you to do all three: analysis, evaluation, and interpretation. So we start with those textual features. Sorry, light shut off. We start with these textual features, and then we can move into the more complicated ways of making sense of literature. So the key is to get to meaning, right? To get to an interpretation that includes theme in some large way. But we have to start with DITS. It's the foundation. Okay, you can't read this very well, I know, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to break down each one for you specifically, okay? Here we go. Diction is word choice. So ask these questions when you're analyzing diction. What are connotations of certain words? Are there any ordinary words used in extraordinary ways? What words are repeated in the particular line or lines you're looking at? Or what key word is used in the line or sentence that affects the larger meaning? Here's an example from Frederick Douglass. On page 19, the first page of his narrative. I do not remember to have ever met a slave who could tell of his birthday. They seldom come nearer to it than planting time, harvest time, cherry time, springtime, or fall time. The words in pink, here's my analysis. And I'm focusing on diction, right? Word choice. The words in pink are references to time of year that can be witnessed without a clock, calendar, or other systems of signs of literacy. Douglas uses these words to create the feeling, or it creates the feeling, his use of them creates the feeling that slaves are denied the basic literacy most children learn in their earliest memory, their date of their birth. So they can only notice the season rather than being able to read calendars, clocks, and make notations of dates of birth. Okay, so that is an example of analyzing diction. Let's take a look at imagery. Imagery is details that evoke one or more of the five senses, and sometimes they're used comparatively, so they're used figuratively. So ask these questions when you're analyzing imagery. What senses are evoked from a description? And don't forget about things beyond sight, right? Sound, touch, taste, smell. What effects do these images create in you? What do they make you think of? Is the imagery comparative when something's compared to another figuratively? What's being compared to what? All right, here's an example of imagery from page 23. It struck me with an awful force. It was the blood-stained gate, the entrance to the hell of slavery through which I was about to pass. And here's my analysis. Watching his first whipping of a human, his Aunt Hester's, compared figuratively to entering hell. The imagery of blood-stained gate has been stained with prior gruesome violence, and so feels both unending, perpetual, and impending. It's going to happen again and to Douglas as he notes he was about to pass through it. So I'm focusing on the blood-stained gate and the comparison of this experience to entering hell in this analysis. Let's take a look at tone. Tone is the attitude of the speaker. In this case, our speaker is our narrator and writer, Frederick Douglass. So ask yourself these questions when looking at tone. When do you feel like you can hear the narrator? What kind of person does the narrator seem to be? How does the narrator address his subjects? And what I mean by this is, how does he feel about the topics that he's writing about? How does he feel about his audience? What feeling does the narrator have towards the subject matter? I guess I kind of repeated that one. Things that you could look for in Douglas's tone are when he's objective, when he doesn't really show any feelings. Ironic, he uses irony a lot. Bitter, hopeful, nostalgic, angry. These are all different tones that Douglas uses in his text. Here's an example. She was a field hand, and a whipping is the penalty of not being in the field at sunrise unless a slave has special permission from his or her master, to get to the contrary, a permission which they seldom get, and one that gives to him that gives it the proud name of being a kind master. So the tone here is sarcastic and ironic in one that gives to him, I'm sorry, I've got another typo there, the proud name of being a kind master. So the oxymoron of kind master creates the feeling Douglas is sneering as he says it. Douglas shows here that there's no such thing as a kind master, and that earning the title is against all forms of logic and humanity and deserves scorn. Okay, so that is an example of tone. The last one is sort of a hidden one. Oh no, before the hidden one, we've got structure, DITS. Structure, what is the narrator's focus of attention in a particular sentence, paragraph, chapter? How are the sentences or paragraphs or chapters organized? How do they relate to each other? And are there special sections besides the regular chapters? How do these sections work? And of course, we do have that in Douglas's text because we have the preface, the letter, and the appendix. The preface and letter come at the beginning. The appendix comes at the end. So analyzing the use of those is getting to DITS. But here's an example that's a little bit more focused on sentence structure. And so I'm looking specifically at how the sentence is organized. Slaveholders have ordained and by law established that the children of slave women shall in all cases follow the condition of their mothers, and this is done too obviously to administer to their own lusts, and make a gratification of their wicked desires profitable as well as pleasurable. For by this cunning arrangement, the slaveholder, in cases not a few, sustains to his slaves the double relation of master and father. You'll see this technique used often by writers, and it's a great one to look for, and it's parallel structure. Parallel structure is whenever you have sentence structure repeated, all right? It's used all the time, and it's a great way to analyze syntax or sentence structure. So here's what I wrote about. This sentence uses parallel structure using the two adjectives, profitable and pleasurable, okay? Profitable as well as pleasurable. That structure is repeated with master and father. And so that's all that's repeated, is just the listing of two words, in this case adjectives, in this case nouns. And if I get that specific, then I'm doing DITS justice. Using the two adjectives profitable and pleasurable to enhance the wrong of the rape and ownership, while repeating the structure with the two nouns master and father, which enhances the hypocrisy of the master-father roles of the slaveholder. All right, this is the hidden one. M, mood. What is the setting? What atmosphere is created through the descriptions? What kind of feeling do you get as a reader from reading a particular scene? Some possibilities: grotesque, picturesque, calm and peaceful, scary. And which details create this feeling? Here's an example. After rolling up his sleeves, he commenced to lay on the heavy cowskin, and soon the warm red blood, amid heart-rending shrieks from her and horrid oaths from him, came dripping to the floor. I was so terrified and horror-stricken at the sight that I hid myself in a closet and dared not venture out till long after the bloody transaction was over. The description of the whipping, the blood, the shrieking, swearing, and Douglas's response of hiding in a closet creates a mood of nightmarish gore. And I might even go on to say, to talk about imagery, right? Because we hear the shrieking, we see the blood, we hear the swearing. I might talk about diction because he actually uses the word horror. And what does he use more than once? Blood we see is used more than once, the word blood. And so there are other things that you can look at when you look at larger things like mood. You can go back to diction and imagery to get at how that mood is created. Same thing with tone. All right, good luck as you analyze. And sorry this got a little long, my bad.